Welcome to Rural Remix, your source for deeper, richer stories about life in rural places. Aliens. They come in peace, they destroy our planet, they mystify, terrify, and inspire. This series explores alien movies through the decades, specifically those set in rural places. Welcome to Crop Circle Cinema. Why do movie aliens so often land in what many consider to be flyover country? What do rural alien invasions say about societal fears, technological change, and our relationship to the land? We are taking a deep dive into the symbolism and significance of the alien genre in rural America. In today's episode, we're taking a look at rural alien movies through an ecological lens. Aliens can function as both extractive forces and as symbols of nature's raw power. How do aliens both represent nature and battle nature? And how can alien invasions in films warn us of our own environmental degradation? Be warned, we'll be discussing these movies without avoiding spoilers. Hello, and welcome to Crop Circle Cinema. I'm Anya Patron-Slepian.
I'm Susanna Brown.
And this is our third episode, which means we have a third silly question to ask you, Susanna. And in this case, our question is, if you were an alien invading Earth, where would you land your ship?
Okay, well, I must confess, I did know this question was coming, and I...
What? What do you mean?
And I searched, and there is a whole Reddit thread about this topic, but people are way more logical than I would be about this. People have thought a lot about this question, despite all of the great information and answers from everyone on Reddit. I think that my answer, practical or not, is Iceland, because of all the places I've traveled to, it's the place that felt the most like another planet to me. So if I was an alien invading Earth, I think I would maybe feel at home landing in Iceland.
Oh, that's sweet. I like that. That's very nice.
Thank you. What about you?
I also knew this question was coming, but unlike you, I didn't do any research. I just winged it. And the first thing that I thought of that I thought, yeah, that's a good one, is the Space Needle in Seattle.
Oh, it's a very precise landing point. You need to
Yeah,
have
but
good
I'm really good at landing my spaceship, obviously.
Of course.
And I feel like it has the flair, it has the name. It feels like a red carpet. It's like a welcoming space. They say, hey, this is for you. This is the Space Needle. If you're from space, come land on this needle. And I would say, thank you very much. I appreciate the welcome.
Yes, that is actually the advertising of the Space Needle. If you are from space, come land on this needle.
Yeah, should I say now that I've actually never been to the Space Needle, but I've seen it from a distance.
Yes, that's a great answer.
Thank you. Sorry for the lack of research. Something that we did research a little bit more is the topic for today's episode.
Yes.
And what is that, Susanna?
So in this episode, we are going to be talking about rural alien movies, but through the lens of environmentalism. So that means we're just going to be looking at how nature plays a role in these alien movies. We're going to think about concepts like parasites, extraction, ecological revenge, and the structure of this will basically be aliens versus nature, and then we'll get into what it means for aliens to be nature.
Okay. Sounds interesting. I'm really excited to get started.
It actually relates back to that topic you led us through on our very first episode when we were learning about paranoia in alien movies, because this environmental focus is kind of just a different angle on that paranoia.
Mm-hmm.
So in past episodes, we've talked about nuclear anxiety, Cold War, communism anxiety, and now it's that same paranoia, but this time about environmental topics, climate change, like overusing of resources, destruction of the natural world. And that's all part of this alien genre too.
That makes total sense. And, I have to say that growing up when, being alive when we're alive now, there's still some low-level nuclear anxiety getting higher every day these days. But mostly, rather than the Cold War and communism, I would say my biggest anxieties are climate anxieties. So that makes total sense that would be worked into the alien genre.
100%. I often associate that kind of climate anxiety genre with more general apocalypse sci-fi. So I'm thinking movies like The Day After Tomorrow. I feel like Don't Look Up was a big, it's all the metaphor for climate change. Even a movie like WALL-E from childhood is really about, well, what if we destroy our planet? And it was interesting for researching this episode to think about that genre specifically with aliens and not just general apocalypse sci-fi.
Yeah, I mean, even, I'm a big fantasy person. Game of Thrones is a climate narrative, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
everywhere.
A lot of times in alien movies, there's a trope of humans going into space because Earth has been too destroyed by our own human ways.
Mm.
So, a good example of that is in Avatar, the James Cameron movie, they famously go to Pandora to extract resources from this place.
As the most efficient superconductor known to exist, unobtainium is a rare earth mineral mined by humans and the sole reason for their presence on Pandora.
I actually didn't know this, but in a scene from the non-theater release version of the movie, there's a whole opening scene of the main character Jake on Earth, and you see an Earth that is totally deteriorated. There's overpopulation, extinction of animals, general apocalypse vibes, and that is the context given to them going to Pandora. So that's very much an example of Earth is destroyed. Let's go to this other planet to help what we have done to our own planet. And then another example is Alien, the Ridley Scott movie. Even though it's not necessarily the central point of the film, their ship is there to transport or an oil refinery between outer colonies and Earth. So it is an exploitation of mineral resources on other planets. Again, this idea of too much extraction happening on Earth, needing to look outside of our planet.
It's a theme in a lot of science fiction movies and books, but it's also something that people really on Earth are considering. I mean, if you look at some of Elon Musk's stated motivations for wanting to colonize Mars, which is a big, big goal of his, a lot of it's about ensuring the survival of humanity and having this extra outpost of human existence in case things really fall apart on Earth. Not that he's helping prevent things from falling apart on
Yes.
Earth, but it's a good plan B, he thinks.
Maybe Elon Musk saw Avatar and didn't pick up on its messaging of the consequences of doing this. But you're totally right. It is something not just in science fiction movies anymore. It is very much a part of certain people's reality.
Yeah, no, I guarantee that if Elon Musk saw Avatar, he missed the point. Uh, like 100%. I'd bet most of the money I have on that. And the point that he missed is something that is called mirror logic. This idea of extracting resources, going to other planets to extract resources, can be hit or miss from a human perspective when we do it to other planets. But one thing that's for sure is that when alien species come to Earth to extract resources, we do not like that. That is something that we do not enjoy. And that opens this idea of a mirror logic. And so what makes aliens bad is when they come to Earth and do things that we are also already doing to Earth. And that is extracting resources in an unsustainable and often violent way.
Right. And this contradiction of space being the place people can go to when our planet is dying, searching for resources and a new place to live, is then shown when people are terrified and horrified of aliens coming to our planet because they, in these movies, have destroyed their own planet. So the aliens become the extractive force and they're seen as immoral, monstrous. And yeah, like you said, the mirror logic is what makes aliens bad is what we do all the time, which is extract our own natural resources.
We can dish it, but we can't take it.
Totally. And as this is crop circle cinema, and we talk about rurality, where they are most often landing for this extraction and searching for new resources is rural places. This gets to the idea of rural landscapes sometimes being seen as a site of pure, untouched natural landscape where there's lots of resources to be extracted, taken from, and often representing, like we've talked about in previous episodes, a nostalgic pastoral idea, like this untouched land that's ripe for the taking, a symbol of untouched nature that humans are existing in and then aliens are coming to exploit in this version of an alien movie. But in our not currently alien invaded world, humans are the ones who are doing this kind of extraction, whether it's oil drilling or deforestation, all of this that's happening in rural and remote places is a very human-led actuality.
Yes, I would say entirely human-led actuality. So far
Yes.
as we know.
There's a lot of examples from the movies we watched of aliens being accused of being an extractive force. One of those examples is Independence Day, where in the movie the aliens are described as being locusts.
They're like locusts. They're moving from planet to planet, their whole civilization. After they've consumed every natural resource, they move on. And we're next.
The official name of the aliens in Independence Day, which actually gets established officially in the sequel, which I've never seen, from 2016, Independence Day Resurgence, the aliens are known as harvesters. So there's this like very literal idea of these aliens are coming to Earth to get resources to harvest and to interfere with Earth's natural systems. And another example of this is The Faculty, which is that movie we've discussed before that takes place in a small town in a high school. And it's revealed that the aliens are from a native planet that's composed entirely of oceans, and their planet started to die. And so one of the queen aliens has come to Earth because her planet is dying and to take control of it. So again, this idea that we see the reverse of in other movies, but a planet is dying, so going to our planet for a different option.
You know, in my world, Casey, there were limitless oceans as far as the eye could see. Beautiful home till it started to dry up. So I escaped. Came here. I met you. All of you.
Yeah, and in our favorite movie, Cowboys and Aliens, the aliens are there to extract gold.
Yes.
Also very clear it's all about resources for them.
And in Signs, the M. Night Shyamalan movie, they aren't totally sure of the reasons that the aliens are there, but one of the theories they throw out, they've used up all the resources on their planet and they want to harvest ours.
So there are two reasons why extraterrestrials will visit us: to make contact in the spirit of exploration and furthering the knowledge of the universe. Or the other reason, they're hostile. They've used up all the resources on their planet, and they're looking to harvest our planet next.
But for Signs, it's actually a very interesting example that I want to get into more, because there's this idea that maybe aliens are here to extract our resources, but then, a spoiler alert for Signs, nature ends up being what destroys them. Because these aliens, in contrast to the Faculty where the aliens can't survive without water, the aliens in Signs are killed by water. Okay, so here I'm gonna, this will be my second mention of going on Reddit. I promise I have other more reliable sources, but Reddit is a really interesting place. And I highly recommend anyone who's interested in the movie Signs to go on r/fan theories. There's a lot of discourse on this movie. And there's a lot of conversation about the motivations of the aliens in Signs, and especially because of the discovery that they are defeated by water. I won't go into all of these theories, but I will say there's an idea that the aliens have sent their prisoners to Earth as punishment because famously there's a lot of water on Earth. So the Redditors are like, well, they must have known this, and therefore they sent their bad people, their bad aliens there to have to deal with water.
Right, I guess if you're approaching Earth from space, there's like a lot of blue wrapped around it, to be fair.
Yeah. But then maybe they didn't even know that they weren't able to interact with water because potentially their planet doesn't have water. They've never interacted with it before. Then another theory, because in Signs, there's a young girl who's often talking about how the water tastes funny, that there's something off with it.
It's contaminated.
Carl, there's something wrong with our water.
Your water's fine. Bo has this thing about her drinking water. She had it her whole life. It's like a tick people have, except it's not a tick.
Is that right?
So a theory is maybe they can interact with water, just not the water in this rural place, because the water here is maybe contaminated, has fertilizer, pesticides, something off with it. So with all these theories in mind, Signs brings up an interesting conversation point, which is what happens when technologically advanced aliens come into contact with the natural environment of rural places on Earth.
Mm. Right, and I think something that all of these theories point to, which is a fairly simple premise but is still important, is that the reason that the aliens are so adversely affected by water is that they don't belong on Earth. They're an invasive species in the purest sense of it, right? And so something that is life-giving and one of Earth's most important resources for humanity and every other creature that lives on the planet is their downfall. I don't know if the aliens have a sense of like manifest destiny or anything like that, but if you did, do you think that might really stump them because they literally cannot survive interacting with one of the main components that makes up life on Earth?
And I like that as a way of viewing signs, as a way of feeling that our Earth and our planet is really powerful. Like in this movie, nature is this resilient force. It beats the aliens. It's not passive. It's not just an idyllic landscape. It's a force that's reactive and resistant and maybe even vengeful towards, like you said, this invasive species. And so maybe a reading of signs in movies like it is remember that nature fights back when we're thinking about, okay, they have this theory that maybe the aliens are here to take our resources. Well, watch out, nature can fight back. And this could be a lesson to the humans doing the same kind of extraction in these rural places.
Mm. Yeah, I'll also say though that like water is the thing that destroys the aliens, but it gets some help from, at least in our frame of the movie, it gets some help from some scrappy brothers, you know, and their children who are the ones who kind of figure that out and learn how to use it. And I think most notably, if we're talking about nature, there's, you know, the actual nature like water and mountains and all that stuff. There's also human nature, and I think human nature gets a lot of credit in signs, especially like American, like rugged scrappiness, human nature. The clearest example of that to me is Joaquin Phoenix's character, who is known in the baseball world because he always swings.
It was a Class A screw up. He would just swing that bat as hard as he could every time. Didn't matter what the coaches said. Didn't matter who was on base. He would just whip that bat through the air as hard as he could. Looked like a lumberjack chopping down a tree. Merrill here has more strikeouts than any two players.
You really got the strikeout record?
Felt wrong not to swing.
That's not a great baseball strategy, I've been told. I don't know a lot about baseball, but if you're talking about like the human spirit, and I think especially sort of this idea of like American exceptionalism, then somebody who always swings, always tries, always gives an effort is like something that's rewarded, at least in the movie of Signs.
A final Signs note, just because it is the name of our show, Crop Circle Cinema. Crop circles appear in this movie. The aliens are leaving crop circles in the cornfields. And I think this is just another important alien-nature interaction. I mean, the reason we named our show this is that crop circles are such a alien signifier and so connected to rural spaces. And it shows a way of interacting with the natural world, specifically rural landscapes, that there's an obsession with in movies, but also in the real world, that aliens have some sort of interest, connection, or meaning-making systems to do with cornfields or fields in general.
I'll say that between crop circles and some of our horror movies that we watched, like my suspicion of cornfields has increased a lot from where it might have been before.
Yes.
We've talked a lot about technology and how technology is at play in these movies. And for the most part, in movies where aliens are coming to Earth, the aliens have superior technology purely on the basis of them having made it to Earth. We couldn't make it to them. They made it here. Their technology is better. Easy peasy. And another movie that I've been thinking about in terms of this question is Nope, because it does things a little differently. There's so many things that I love about Nope. I think it's such a good movie. I think it's such an interesting, like, it has such interesting takes on a lot of these sort of broader alien themes that come up over and over again. But something that I really love about Nope is the alien. First of all, is my favorite alien of any of the aliens that we've encountered. And something that makes it different is that it's not an alien in a spaceship. Like, the alien is the spaceship. And so in that sense, it's just an animal, right? Like, it's an animal that can do intergalactic travel or something. We don't really know where it comes from. That's not something that's explored in the movie. But so rather than being this, organic creature wrapped up in a metal ship, it's just the ship. And it doesn't have guns or laser guns or whatever, but it can eat you violently. It doesn't need a tractor beam because it's it creates its own force of tractor beam. And I think, Nope, the movie, as we've talked about before, there is sort of this obsession with technology and the fact that this animal also negates human technology. Like, things go haywire around it. You can't use the internet. Like, electricity goes out. All of these things that humans rely on. And in the end, the victory for the human people is that they managed to capture a picture of the alien. But because of the nature of the alien, that becomes a challenge in itself.
And this may be a stretch, but the way you just described that at the end makes me think of a lot of the ways humans exist with nature in kind of it's dangerous and we're just trying to get a photo of it, whether that's doing extreme things like crazy mountain climbing or things that I'm like, oh, whoa, maybe this is not how humans should interact with nature, because people keep dying and realizing the hard way the terrifying and awe-inspiring power of nature.
Cave diving.
Yeah.
Stop cave diving. Stop it. Stop it. It freaks me out.
Yeah, it's like nature is a force to be reckoned with, and sometimes people learn that the hard way. And I don't know if that's what the takeaway of Nope is, but I
think there's a lot of takeaways from Nope, and we can pile that one on the end there. No problem.
So you sort of mentioned this already with the idea of the aliens as an invasive species, but that gets into the second part of this environmental lens on alien movies, which is aliens as nature. Aliens show up as both fears of parasites and more microbial fears like disease, but then also as invasive species like plants or other things like that. And in this way, they become symbols of different forms of ecological collapse, whether pathogens and diseases spreading like wildfire or, invasive plants spreading and destabilizing ecosystems. And so the alien becomes indistinguishable from the natural world being out of balance. And alien invasion then can even become an allegory for how the Earth might respond and how nature might respond to overuse and abuse, like we were saying in the science discussion.
Something that I think is so interesting about portrayals of aliens, especially when we're sort of drilling down into natural, organic, animalistic qualities of them, is how often we think of aliens as being bug-like. And I mean, probably my first introduction to really science fiction as a whole was in middle school. We read Ender's Game, which is a book series by Orson Scott Card. We only ever read the first one. They get a lot weirder and a lot more religious in subsequent. I think there's 10 of them. But the first one is a classic that I think a lot of people are assigned to read. And there the aliens are literally referred to, the slur for the aliens is buggers, and it's because they are bug-like and they have a hive mind. And that is something that keeps on coming up in these movies that we're seeing as well. In The Faculty, the idea of this queen alien who has come and she's the one infecting all the other ones, and if you kill her, you kill the rest of them. That's sort of the same concept. And even in the Independence Day, they're compared to locusts.
Yeah. District 9, they're called prawns.
Yeah, they're called prawns, and they are exoskeleton-y and all of that sort of gooey stuff. And, as far as I'm concerned, lobsters are giant bugs too. So that, yeah, it all makes sense. And so, yeah, I think that there's this fixation on if there's intelligent life elsewhere and it's not soft and squishy and mammalian, bugs? Could it be bugs? And when you think about the incredible things that ants are capable of, or bees, it kind of makes sense that that's a direction that intelligent life could develop in. I do think it's sort of fascinating that that's always sort of based on our own understanding of our own natural world. And it's maybe our biggest competitors are ants. I don't know.
Yeah, there's so many ants and there's so many plants, and that's scary to us. we don't want to have to compete with them. I mean, in the Body Snatchers series, the aliens are plants, they're pods. And in the 1956 version of Body Snatchers, the farmers are growing these pods, these aliens that take over humans and infiltrate them. And it's an example of a natural thing taking over the human body, which can be a really scary feeling.
They're like huge seed pods.
This must be the way that body in my closet was formed. Miles, where do they come from?
I don't know. If they are seeds or seed pods, they must grow someplace on a plant, probably. And somebody or something wants this duplication to take place.
Yeah, and these are like ooey gooey gross plants. I mean, they're not they're not very nice looking in any form or fashion. But yeah, it's this organic form of takeover. And there's a line in the 1978 Body Snatchers that I really love, because it's sort of as they're figuring out that the plants are the cause of all of this.
It's a pink flower, honey.
It could be toxic. Look I have seen these flowers all over. They're growing like parasites on other plants. All of a sudden, where are they coming from?
Outer space?
They're not coming from outer space.
Why not, Jack?
They're not coming from outer space, Nancy.
Why?
Well, what are you talking about? A space flower?
Well, why not a space flower? Why do we always expect metal ships?
I've never expected metal ships.
Look, there's bound to be other ways they can get into our systems.
That's right. They could be getting into us through touch or through their fragrance.
We would never even notice it. Not from the impurities that we have. I mean, we eat junk and we breathe junk.
Look, I don't know where they're coming from, but I feel as though I've been poisoned today.
It brings about an anxiety of this thing that's all around us being untrustworthy. And there's a lesson like, don't mess with this. You don't know what it's capable of. Going back to the Alien Ridley Scott series, the aliens act like parasites. They infiltrate and then ultimately destroy human hosts. And that's similar to Invasion of the Body Snatchers, with humans being taken over by the pod people, the aliens. And so if you look at that version of Alien, there's a fear of the unknown shifting from external threat to internal and parasites and disease from the natural world existing within us.
Yeah, and it's fascinating because like there are so many microbes and all these things that are a part of our bodies and are essential to how we live. And also sometimes it's really scary. And we've all recently had the privilege of experiencing a global pandemic. And oh man, like
Yeah.
yeah, and that stuff's scary. This idea that there's something unseen, there's something that you can try to prevent against, but only if you know about it. And even then, it's not something you can see or feel or touch, really. There's only so much you can do. And yeah, it just might get you.
I don't think I've ever thought about COVID as an alien invasion. In some ways, it's a very helpful way to grasp what that feeling is. Like, you're so right that there's something taking over and it's unknown and it's different and it's changing the world. That's what's happening in all of these movies.
Yeah, and not to belabor the point, but a huge amount of what these movies come down to is how people react. Like, can you convince everybody that there's a threat? Once there is a threat, can you all agree on how to respond to it in a way that best serves the whole community? Like, these are the questions of the Alien movies, and I don't think we are that far removed from having to make those sort of calls and seeing just how messy it can get. COVID was plenty damaging, but higher survival rates than an alien parasite infection for sure.
So all this to say, nature and alien movies have really interesting intersections, whether that's aliens showing the degradation of the environment that in our reality humans are causing, showing what it looks like when resources are extracted and these fears around climate change and all that humans are doing to the earth, and also a way to show nature being powerful, whether that's in defeating the aliens like in Signs, or as a way to warn us of the power of nature being a scary and dangerous thing when the aliens show up as versions of nature, whether parasites, disease, invasive species, or more.
And I think these movies can make us think, as we're going about our daily lives on planet Earth, what do we look at and go, like that's kind of freaky, actually, whether that's ants or pods or invasive species or strip mining.
Anything could be the inspiration for the next massive film franchise success.
I am just sort of deep in allergy season here, so may I suggest pollen as the next opportunity?
Pollen is a terrifying name of a movie. Just in general.
I think it kind of works. Yeah, and you can like already see the imagery of it, like it's like floating around and like everywhere it lands, people are sneezing. I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know. Just saying.
Oh my god,
you heard it.
Got a
here
hit
first,
on your
everybody.
hands. Well, next episode, Anya, you're going to be teaching me some things. What are you going to be talking about?
Yeah, so next episode, we are going to step a little bit outside of the movie space itself and talk a little bit more about the real world implications of alien movies and how the genre interacts in a more concrete way with rural communities and people at large. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, me too. Can't wait.
Thank you so much for talking through the environmentalist lens of rural alien movies. It's something that I think comes up in a lot of places that we're going to see more of now that we're thinking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for sharing your certainly majorly successful movie idea with the public.
Oh yeah, anytime. At least give me a producer credit if somebody goes out and does that.
Of course.
Crop Circle Cinema is hosted and produced by Susanna Brown and Anya Petrone-Slepian. This series was edited by Susanna Brown. Our executive producer is Joel Cohen. Original music was composed by Quincy Ponver and Leo Kozel. Cover art for the series was illustrated by Nat Nichols. Special thanks to the staff at the Daily Yonder and the Rural Assembly. You've been listening to the Rural Remix podcast feed.